Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Dear Umair. Hello, Umair. Hello, Umair's super cool audience. This article today is July 23rd, and we're reading an article, is your most recent article, Umair, entitled We're Losing the Battle for the Future. This is why it feels like we might not have a future anymore. So as I'm reading, I'll change my background to red for those who want to fast forward through that. If you've already read the article, for example, and then I'll take off the red background once we go into discussion mode, which we can go back and forth. So don't hesitate to jump in and comment even as we read. All right, here goes. I don't know if you've noticed, but the world is on fire. That's a symptom of a grim trend. We're losing the battle for the future. Is there going to be much of a future? What will it look like? Let me give you a few visceral examples of how we're losing the battle for the future, and then we'll discuss those questions a little bit. I don't like framing things as battles or wars. I'm doing it in this case because unfortunately, that's what Americans respond to, a call for aggression and hostility. So with that caveat, which I'll come back to, let me continue. It appears that we just might have tipped the planet into runaway global warming. Things are not right. They don't feel right. It shouldn't be this hot. That's even according to climate scientists who've seen their predictions shattered. Siberia shouldn't be melting this catastrophically fast, nor should the Arctic. Canada shouldn't have some of the hottest places on Earth. Smoke plumes shouldn't be stretching across all of North America. We're past the territory of worst cases now. The planet appears to have been pushed past its limits. The heat we're all experiencing right about now, or flood, drought, typhoon, take your pick of extreme events, is intensifying incredibly rapidly. It's as if we've disturbed the basic homeostatic systems which keep the planet in balance. And having disturbed them too much, the Amazon is now a net emitter of carbon, not a carbon sink. The Siberian permafrost is melting, releasing vast methane deposits. The ocean currents, which recirculate and cool warm water, are slowing. Global warming is accelerating in frightening ways. It's happening too suddenly, too fast. It wasn't supposed to be like this. I'm taking notes as I go. How are we going to live on a boiling planet? I suspect you know the answer to that question. Then there's COVID. We're more or less in a worst case scenario at the moment when it comes to that too. The vaccines work, yes, but their efficacy is dropping with startling speed. Scientists have already concluded we'll need boosters. How often? Every year, maybe every 6 months. Efficacy is dropping because new strains are emerging. New strains are emerging because we're not vaccinating the planet faster than cases go on skyrocketing. So what happens when, inevitably, one set of annual or biannual boosters fails, doesn't catch a new variant in time? That's the scenario every thoughtful person has worried about. Then all hell breaks loose. Societies go back into lockdown. Hospitals overflow. Deaths and hospitalizations skyrocket. Now we live under the threat of all that for the foreseeable future. It wasn't supposed to be like this. What is the future, anyways? For most of human history, this thing called the future didn't exist. It's a modern creation, a recent one. The future is a certain kind of myth. Man, I like this.
Yeah, I'm glad you found Umair, because this is good stuff.
No, it's exactly the kind of stuff that it's like fertilizer for our conversations. It gives us a really great starting point and a really great analysis of our most daunting problems. And then we get to build on that with conversations about solutions. And everyone is invited to these conversations. So please join us. The future is a certain kind of myth. Technology will solve all our problems with wondrous labor-saving devices, which will forever lower prices and raise the standard of living. Even the dogs will be happier. Hence, the future, for those who still believe in it, tends to consist of utopian techno fantasies. But who still believes in the future? In this age, the future, at least for the dwindling adherents of the idea, looks incredibly weird, gruesome, and bizarre. Machines, we're told, will suck the carbon from the sky. Robots will be our best friends, providing the companionship we can't to each other. Massive algorithms will allocate labor, decide who works where and for whom and when with perfect efficiency. They'll also tell you what to do, who to date, love, what to buy, where, think, believe, know. The future, in this conception, what's left of it, is a place where love, truth, beauty, goodness, trust, happiness don't exist because they don't need to. Machines do all that work for us. Nobody thoughtful really thinks of that as some kind of desirable state of the world. It's good for sociopaths, billionaires, and politicians, but mostly I repeat myself. In this state of the future, the planet is still a dystopia of annihilation, disease, inequality, despair, and ruin. Only we're glued to some kind of matrix of pleasure all the way down into hell. Sound like a good deal to you? Are you an idiot? The adherents of the future at this point come in three categories. One, nerds, people who work in tech. They're techno serfs, basically. Two, venture capitalists, whose job at this point appears to be spinning ever more ludicrous yarns of a glittering algorithm world. And three, the kind of person who has a fetishistic devotion to salvation through technology. The truth, though, is that there aren't that many people in this group. There are far, far more of us in the other group, the ones who have lost faith in the future, who don't think there is much of one. No, you're not crazy. It's a far more reasonable position to take. Why? Well, because the truth is that we're probably way past the point of no return. Every thoughtful mind can see the writing on the wall. Experts like me can weigh in with facts. Ecologists will tell you that mass annihilation is going to rip us apart too. Climate scientists will tell you it hasn't been this hot for millions of years, and every year the temperature goes up by the equivalent in biogeological time of a few million years. Economists like me can tell you that the investment rate of our civilization is far, far too low for us to reverse the damage we've inflicted on the planet, ourselves, our societies, and our consumption rate is way, way too high. And we can't invest because capital, AKA the ultra rich and corporations, have hoarded all the money, gains, resources. Faith in the future is dwindling for a very, very good set of reasons. Factual ones, empirical ones, logical ones. It isn't some kind of alarmism or hysteria to have lost faith in the future. At this juncture in human history, the planet's literally on fire while billionaires jet off to space in dong-shaped rockets. It's common sense. So if the future isn't the future, If the myth of constant growth, excuse me, if if the myth of constant growth, progress, and expansion driven by miraculous labor-saving technology anymore, then, well, what's in store for us? The answer to that is pretty simple. Regress is. What does a world crossing the threshold of runaway global warming have in store for it? You might imagine that people will unite in some kind of grand, noble revolution to save the planet. But unfortunately, that's not going to happen. Instead, the opposite is. Well, I take exception there, but let me make a note of that. People will flee from fire and flood and plague belts. As they do, entire economies will begin to collapse and societies implode. Think about a Napa Valley that can't make wine, factories that can't produce things, homes which can't be insured, basic infrastructure systems, transport, food, water, energy, which no longer work. Bang, game over. Entire regions and cities just wink out. As they do, economies grow depressed while prices skyrocket. If you have a sense that that's beginning to happen already, you're precisely correct. As huge waves of human capital flight, read mass migration, ensue, the political result will be, sadly, that today's nationalism becomes tomorrow's fascism. Look at how fast Britain, once the envy of the world, gentle, kind, friendly, expansive, fell into a catastrophic nationalism that utterly wrecked its future. Demagogues arise to point the finger at anyone remotely foreign, different, other. The future looks ultra-fascist, at least to those who've studied history. And Marco, just so you know, we're getting kind of some high-pitched kind of sounds from your phone.
Okay, can you mute me?
Oh yeah, happy to, but I can't unmute you. So once muted, it'll be your responsibility.
Yep.
All right. You are muted, Marco. Okay. Do you think any nation will be happy to welcome, say, 1 million climate refugees when its own systems are already buckling because the planet's boiling? When its own regions are flooding or burning or both? Of course not. It'll be fodder for demagogues who will blame the migrants for the woes of the pure and true. Meanwhile, living on a burning planet is going to continue basically driving much of the human race verifiably insane. My goodness, can you feel it? I mean, this is a tough one for me to cope with because I feel, like almost like shades of insanity coming on just facing what we're dealing with, but we'll come back to that. Take a look at how fast and hard bizarre delusions spread. It's not just Facebook. That's just the mechanism. It's that life is incredibly stressful to the point that many of us can't cope. We need the delusions just to make through another day. Much easier to hate someone slightly different from you than work together to solve real problems. Much easier to descend into superstition and fanaticism and fundamentalism than think through the plight we're in these days. But it's hardly just the fanatical right-wing coterie which adores the disinformation on Facebook that's lost the plot. It's also mainstream society. Who wants to believe that elites really want to kill us, to kill all of us happily? That COVID and global warming appear to be whole new profit centers, which is why precisely nothing much is being done about them systematically or globally. F that, man. I'm going to go see what my new best friend forever is doing. Wow, check out the pecs, boobs, airbrushing on that influencer. I wish I had the kind of life they do. They're perfect. Wait, maybe if I just buy some more stuff. Escapism rules the day. The number of rich Westerners who appear to care about the planet being vaccinated is precisely zero. The number who care passionately about Britney Spears ranks in the millions. Sure, care about Britney, but also maybe shed a tear for, I don't know, the world. But we don't live in societies like that. We live in societies of zombified cave dwellers now. They're not trying to grasp Plato's ideal either. They're just grunting at each other by firelight, too afraid to stare out into the night. Faith in the future is one of the linchpins which held our civilization together. That's fascinating. I'm gonna talk more about that. The myths of technological progress, economic growth, and living standards rising in tandem forever, eternally, are what sold the thing known as the global economy to the world. Only now they appear to have been proven badly wrong. The people dismissed as pessimists and alarmists in the 70s and 80s and 90s, ecologists, climate scientists, economists, appear to have been exactly right. It's not as if a new thought, after all, it's not as if it's a new thought, after all, that over consuming rampantly and not giving one tiny shred of a damn about, say, investing in global systems to give every child on earth water and sanction and food, or every species room and nourishment to live, or every ecology protection and resources, or else. It's not as if that's new. Or else what? It was pointed out in the late 60s and early 70s that the shell game of growth, at least growth predicated on fossil fuels, industrialization, which culminated in mass consumption, was going to destabilize the planet. And along with it would probably go out societies, economies, nations, cities, and communities. The tragedy is that nobody was listening. But the greater tragedy is that nobody's still listening. Take the example of North America. Giant smoke plumes literally stretch across the continent. Americans couldn't care less. Give them violence, porn, hate, and the illusion they'll get rich one day, like the billionaires who own their meaningless lives, and they're totally indifferent even to their own continent, beginning to literally go up in flames. Meanwhile, the poor world doesn't have the time, energy, or resources to do much. Its people are busy working around the clock in modern day indentured servitude to make stuff super cheap to feed the insatiable maw of the rich world with. 85% of humanity exists to serve the whims of the other 15%. And that 15% is accustomed to consuming things so rampantly, remorselessly, stupidly, that the planet's ecosystems have been chewed through in a matter of decades. Nobody's still listening. The old graybeards are right where they were, still trying to warn us all. This time they have the cold comfort of knowing they were right. Joining them are a new cast of ragtag characters, disillusioned figures like me who couldn't be part of a system that was killing the world. It's not exactly an empire-beating rebel alliance, yet here we are, trying to warn you. And it's not like we're the only ones. The planet is trying to warn you. I like that. Rebel Alliance. Let's talk about that as well. Flood. The planet is trying to warn you. Flood, fire, plague, drought. Consider them all a message from a time that doesn't exist anymore. The future. It's not here anymore. Now, light speed regress is. We're heading back to a quasi-medieval state of politics, economics, society, lords and serfs, kings and nobles, life worthless, rights meaningless, democracy a distant memory, blood and soil the threads which hold everything together, tribe against tribe, clan against clan, every person for themselves when all that breaks down. Superstition and fanaticism replacing reason and logic. A complete inability to act collectively. Violence and brutality replace the rule of law. Mass death, catastrophe, disaster, shrug. At least it wasn't me and mine, friend. I don't even own the fields I till. We don't have a future to believe in anymore. You can see it in the way the human mind is breaking down, in the way culture is collapsing, the way that desperately, stupidly, so many are turning to anything else. Religion, extremism, conspiracy, dumb influencers, elaborate video games, comic books, the way everything's getting more infantile and narcissistic as the world burns. The future isn't here anymore. Maybe it never was. Maybe the death of the future is a good thing. The problem, though, is that people like us, with a the problem, though, is that people like us with a future to believe in, we don't have anything because we don't have a past we respect, an inheritance that comes from the rivers and forests, the sense ancients had a deep respect for the world. Without the future, we've lost our bearings. The past was always something for us to have contempt for, to scorn and mock as backwards. So when the future died, what were we left with? It's true that the past was backwards. Our civilizations was slavery, empire, inquisition. But there is a healthy respect too for a deeper past. The way that indigenous peoples have far more sophisticated ethical notions than ours, ones of interdependence with nature, or the way that their societies were often far more consensual and nonviolent than ours too. We need to go back, probably, to go forward. The future isn't a thing we can make with machines. Our mistake, our undoing. The future needs to carry forward what's good in the past, what's true, what's beautiful, and keep on doing it. We didn't do that. We gave up the old ways, the really old ones, the ones which would have said that taking a life, even a little one, without thanking it, without grieving for it, brings shame. Or the ones which would have been repelled and sickened in their souls by the idea of ripping down a forest or polluting an ocean. Sorry, I've got to go see what my favorite influencer is doing. I don't have time for this. What the hell is wrong with this guy? Maybe if I just have their perfect life, maybe if I have perfect boobs, chiseled pecs, a bulging bank account, a glittering smile, I can forget for a few seconds about the fact that we're all burning up on a dying planet. Our ancestors are ashamed of us, my friends. We are the people who disgraced the past to create a myth called the future. That myth failed because there was no soul in it, no depth, no humanity. It was a vision of power, control, slavery, and violence if we strip the gloss away. Machines or subhumans doing the work we didn't want to do so we could gorge ourselves into oblivion instead of grappling with the big, beautiful, dangerous questions of being alive, existing, feeling, being connected, here now on a tiny ball of dust spinning through the darkness. The meaning and purpose and truth and beauty of it all. What kind of creepy way of life is that? Is that even living much at all? I think we'll probably be among the last generations to believe in the future. And I think that's an eminently good thing too. Because the civilization which comes after ours finishes collapsing into dust by way of fire, flood, and plague, is going to look a lot more like the very, very old ones. How do I know? They were around thousands of times longer than us. Maybe that should have told us something. Umair. All right, I've removed my red background because we are now shifting gears into the discussion phase. Goodness, what good stuff.
Yeah, that was powerful, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, Umair, you are getting more and more real with just how fast things are collapsing and just how far we've gone past any reasonable boundaries. So kudos. And I know that's hard to be the voice articulating that to such a large audience. And Umair, I want you to know we are with you. We support you. And we're here to participate with you in the conversation. You're not alone. And in fact, the way I see it, and I don't want to talk too much because I want to pass the feather, but just briefly, the way I see it is we are the Rebel Alliance. We're it. And we're growing. And, yes, there's this powerful drag of delusion that's afflicting the vast majority of humanity. But we just like the Rebel Alliance in Star Wars, we have to fight on. We can't give up. And if necessary, we fight to the last person, right? But we have to fight for Mother Earth, for life, for the animals, the pollinators, the plants, the rainforests, the rivers, what's left of them. We can't just, as heartbreaking as it all is, and there are times when I'd rather be dead, frankly, than experience all this heartbreak and all this destruction around all of us and all this despair. Anyway, lots more to say from me, but first I'm going to pass the talking feather and pass it around a bit. Thank you.
Well, for me anyway, I agree with what you're saying there, Jim, and I agree as well. Like, it's hard. Like, first of all, and it couldn't have been worded any better as far as I'm concerned. What Umair writes there, like it's and it's not. I suppose to the majority of the people he's writing to who are oblivious to the real problem because of they're kept in the dark really, and they're sheeple, keeping up with the mainstream fads. He's it almost sounds like prophecy what he's saying because it sounds so fantastical. You know what I mean? Because to the person who has no idea what the severity of our situation is regarding climate and everything is, when you tell them how imminent our actual destruction of our civilization is, they just think you're you know, offering away with the fairies. So, you know, to write that and put yourself out there, yeah, I respect the man 100% for it, and I agree. Like, we're far and few between those that actually do know what the severity of the truth is, and we're hanging in there to try and convince the rest of the truth, because that's all we can do. Yeah, I wish you know, sometimes I wish, God, you know, what the hell are we going to do here? Like, this is impossible. What the fight we have on our hands, if we want to call it a fight, to get people to understand. And it seems like an impossible task, like, but it's not. It's not, and by any means it's not. And as long as I've been involved in the block party, you know, over the last year as well, like, I could see that sometimes it can seem like there's nothing moving. This, you know, we seem like we're flogging a dead horse, so to speak, pardon the pun. But there's also there's all the times, like, in the last couple of weeks now, like, you know, things are taking on serious traction, and, you know, unfortunately, it seemed we're taking on traction. We're getting things on the way now, and getting the platform set up for the likes of, as you said, you know, for the others that are out there like ourselves. You know what I mean? But I'm sorry, you know, I'm after losing my train of thought there now because of the beeping there or whatever. So I'll leave Marco take over for a second, then I'll gather my thoughts again.
Yeah, no, and take
Yeah.
your, yeah, go ahead, Marco, go ahead.
Yeah, you know, when you said, you know, you'd rather be dead, I don't know how many people take that literally, but, you know, I have a lot of health issues, and I've been suffering from chronic pain for, you know, well over 10 years. And that's hard to deal with. And there's those days when you go, if it's gonna hurt this much tomorrow, maybe I'd be better off if I don't wake up. You know, I could never, because of my beliefs, never harm myself. But then, you know, you get some encouragement. You can come here and talk to people that you know, are compassionate, and are fighting to save the earth from all life on earth becoming extinct, is really what we're doing. And when you see that none of the governments are doing anything meaningful about it, mostly, you know, propaganda denying that it's as bad as it is, what they hope to gain from that, I have no idea. But that adds another level. And I've spent my days when I'm like, you know, just please let me get to sleep and not wake up, because what's the point? But then I remember I have a daughter, and I have younger siblings, and I have, you know, other relatives and other people, and I see children in the neighborhood. You know, they deserve a fucking chance. And we're gonna, you know, we're gonna do it here. You know, we're, you know, all the projects we have going, and you know, if people just you know, look in the, you know, once this is published, you know, we'll have contact information, you know, below the YouTube videos. You know, come join us, learn the truth about a lot of things, because a lot of our problem is we've been lied to for decades about too many things. If we had been more educated and understood, we wouldn't be in the shape we're in now. I don't know what the game plan is that you know, we've been so misled. I don't understand the logic there. I don't know who thinks they're going to survive after they've poisoned the planet. And you know, I don't know anybody that's going to survive, you know, when we're hitting 150 degrees. You know, it's mind-boggling. But join us here and learn what we can do. Pass the feather.
Beautiful, Marco. Really beautiful, man. James, you have the feather if you're ready for it, but no pressure, and and silence is also okay.
Well, all I was kind of saying to was what Marco just covered there about, we have to get up and face it, and you have to get on with it. It's not just about yourself. Like, at the end of the day, you know what I mean. I don't think of myself in this scenario anyway. I always think of beyond myself as well. Like, so that's the only thing that keeps me going, and also the idea that there are like-minded people like yourselves and Umair out there, like, and they're, like ourselves at times, tearing our hair out and trying to, in frustration as to what the hell is going on here. Like, but at the same time, you have to get over the depression and get on with it, and keep fighting the good fight, because we are making ground, and there's science out there that is all it needs is a push, and in the right way, and a bit of backing, and it's not beyond us by any means now, like, other than the fact that people are in the dark as to the truth. I mean, even Umair said it there himself at the start of the right there. He said, like, things are even happening too fast, even than the scientists predicted. And I'm sorry, like, but that's not true. Like, in a sense, like, things are happening too fast for the scientists who have been continually predicting that the real scientists are off their fucking trolley, like the likes of all the science peer-reviewed literature that guy McPherson brings out there all the time. I mean, that's peer-reviewed literature by scientists who have been out there in the field for at least a decade to up to 30 years worth of science. And that's telling a whole different story than to the paid scientists by the likes of ExxonMobil and everything else, which is not a lie, because we can say it straight out, because it came out of the horse's mouth themselves. They're covering up all this information, and unfortunately, somewhere along the line in democracy, something got slipped into democracy along the line, where our politicians no longer work for the good of the people. It's no longer we the people, it's we the politicians, and whoever gives us the most money will do whatever you do or whatever you want. You know what I mean? Money now buys politicians, money buys elections, and that's not democracy. It never was. So our problem right from the get-go is greed, simple and plain. And that's why, unfortunately, there are unscrupulous, moralless people out there that will, and greedy people that will, live the high life regardless of who fucking goes down the drain. It's as simple as that. They just don't care. So it's up to us, the ones that do know and do care, to just get this, get the truth out there and push and push and push, because we actually have a way of getting out of this. It's just the 1% that have all the money. They also have the control as well. So we just need to take it out of their hands. And I don't mean by any violence or any other kind of thing like that. I mean, we just need to act without them. We don't fucking need them anyway at the end of the day. Literally. Passing the fiddle.
I'll take it just for a minute to add a little bit to what I said. There are things we can do, things we should have done 40 and 50 years ago. If we had listened, there would be, doing regenerative agriculture and planting more trees and various drawdown methods. Sound good, but they take too long. We're already too hot right now for those to be effective. We need to do all those things, but first we need to do, take action to cool the planet quickly. And there are methods, ways of reflecting some of the sunlight back that will buy us the time to educate ourselves and do those things that will naturally restore the balance in the planet. But right now, we are on a very tight schedule. 2022, this next summer, according to the most recent peer-reviewed scientific study, we will have no more Arctic sea ice. And most people don't understand that the sea ice melting causes more than just the ice being melted. The problem is that ice that normally stays all through the summer, which won't be there anymore, reflects sunlight back. So instead of that sunlight being reflected back and not heating up the planet, it's now going into the deep colored ocean and heating us even faster. That's gonna be another quick jump in the, rise in the temperature. But we have ways to counter that, more than one. We're working with different scientists and engineers, and the answers are there, but only if we act quickly. So come, learn, use the links, join us, educate yourselves, and let's help save the planet. Complete for now.
Beautiful, beautiful. James and Marco. Really good stuff. I feel like we're putting together a puzzle that's so vast that requires so many pieces, right? And sometimes I feel like we're just like a troop of little Dutch boys going and, buttressing one part of the berm over here, and then another part over there. The parts that come to mind right now are, one is solar radiation management, which you were alluding to, but not by name, but the way to cool the planet in time, the only way to cool the planet in time. Another is collective intelligence evolving to collective superintelligence. And that's something that we work on very seriously right here. And what I very gently and at the same time very firmly encourage you, Umair, and your readership. I'm just speaking to all of you right now, to take very seriously as a potential. I mean, there's two ways that we can face this crisis. One is, by what I'm going to refer to, it may sound a little cynical, and sure, there's an element of cynicism, but I'm not going to analyze myself too much. I'm just going to say it flat out. One way is to basically pass notes to each other under the door, right? Which is what asynchronous writing is. And not that that's not valuable. I mean, we're all prisoners in this vessel that's going down. And better that prisoners can pass each other notes under the door than nothing. But better than passing notes under the door, asynchronous writing, as powerful as that is, there's something even more powerful, which is meeting together, getting together and having meetings. To what end, one might ask? Well, this is something where I believe until we hit a critical mass, not just of one conversation right here in this Zoom room, as valuable as this is, until we hit a critical mass of a network of conversations, and dare I say a vast network of conversations that is hyperlinked, transcribed, indexed, and sufficiently transparent that folks can go from meeting to meeting, carrying knowledge, carrying summaries, synthesis, and making connections. My very concept, it's not my own, lots of us share this, of collective intelligence evolving to a collective superintelligence, consists of a vast network of conversations that is transcribed and indexed and hyperlinked, et cetera, et cetera. And if anything can help humanity as a whole to survive and indeed thrive, dare I say, and not in some futuristic sense, but in the sense of feeding everyone and caring for our ecosystems and our sister and brother species, consider that collective superintelligence can get us there. And when I say collective superintelligence, I don't have some unrealistic idea that, oh, all of humanity is suddenly going to snap to it. Imagine that the 1% most dialed in, right? Not the 1% wealthiest or anything like that, but the 1% most dialed in The folks you're hearing on this conversation right now, Marco, James, and others, these folks are very dialed in to a very powerful force that's very emergent right now. But if we really embrace it, I think it can take us all the way. And ask yourself, if not that, then what? Embrace despair, embrace the decline, embrace death. That's a form of very slow, low-grade suicide, collective suicide. Oh, we're all going down, there's nothing we can do. Bullshit. We can do this. Now, again, back to this idea of the 1% most dialed in. I don't think it's too much of a stretch to say that the 1% of humanity that is the most dialed in, if we were to come together in this growing network of conversations, we could do absolutely incredible work, sense making, co-creation of solutions, and yes, and this is a big one, drum roll, orchestration of the rest of humanity. Right? I mean, let's just run some numbers real quick. I feel like I'm getting ahead of myself because there's a lot of stuff I want to backtrack to and talk about, like solar radiation management. But suffice it to say that we actually have the technology to cool the planet by reflecting a significant portion of sunlight back into space, for example, with marine cloud brightening. And that can be done very economically, it turns out. That's based on the best knowledge we have available to us. But we are not yet a collective superintelligence. We're, groups of us meeting here and there, and we're, for the most part, very disconnected. We need to come together. And here's where you, Umair, can actually play a key role. If you were to put out a clarion call and say, listen, it's time for us to invoke this thing called collective superintelligence, we could actually do it. Why? Because you've got probably close to the critical mass we need in your readership alone. Right? How much critical mass do we need anyway? Not to have full-blown collective superintelligence, but to get the dominoes tumbling so that we have a clear trajectory to get there, right? Okay, let's run some numbers. But actually, before I even do that, let me pass back the talking feather because I feel like I'm talking too much and it would probably help to get some other perspective. So no pressure, folks, but if there's anyone else who'd like to jump in, go for it. Otherwise, I'll wait a minute or so and then jump in myself.
Well, like I said, as Umair said in the right there as well, he said, like, will people actually unite? Like, and I believe, and that they will. People always unite in peril when they're in trouble, and they have no other choice but to unite together for the common good. And that's just basically the problem, is that the people don't realize that they have a common problem. You know what I mean? They're starting to get the idea now lately. All right, with unfortunately, it has to land on their lap before they see it. Sometimes the people just can't see the wood for the trees. But I mean, people are definitely realizing something's not right with the climate situation now all over the world. Like, there's nobody can deny there's something seriously radically wrong going on. So the opportunity is opening up now all the more for what we are trying to do here. Like, I mean, unfortunately, it's at the expense of people's lives being lost through to the climate tragedies and everything else, and nobody is happy to see any of that happening. But God forbid, we also know and aware of how exponentially disastrous that's going to get. Like, you know what I mean? So, like as Umair said, like will people, will America fall apart? But 1 million refugees actually caused the Brexit, if you think about it. Like, so 1 million Syrian refugees caused the whole of Brexit, and all that's carry on and fuss. So it shut down. It was one of the biggest reasons for Brexit. Was first of all, obviously they didn't want to be paying out anymore to the European Union. Really, they figured they were paying out too much themselves. So it was financial, but it was also racially. It is provoked, is the only thing I can say. They just didn't want foreigners in the country anymore. They didn't want refugees coming in, and that's just that's the wrong attitude we have to have now in the world today. Like, we have no other choice. We're going to be facing, it could be anywhere from 250 million to 350 million refugees in the near term, given the way exponential climate overheating is taking place now. And let's face it, it is exponential. Records have been broken. Like last year's records were records that didn't happen for 1,000 years. This year, they've been broken weekly. I mean, we're about to break a second record tomorrow here in Ireland and Scotland. In the same week, we're breaking extreme heat records here in these countries. Like, so, you know, with China flooding, you know yourself, you're expecting another heat bomb there now in North America again, like this week. So come on, people, we all know that there's something wrong. So when people are in peril, as far as I'm concerned, when they're aware of the danger, they will stand together and work together for the greater good. The majority of them anyway, but they have to be aware. That's the key. So we need the people like Umair to come here or you know, to join us on the Trove Network and the press conference, especially, like something like that. You know what I mean? I think you should send them an invitation to the Trove Network to see the platform that's been designed around this as well, so that we can actually help co-create this collective intelligence. Talking further over, I'll pass.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you, James. So I was talking about running some numbers about collective superintelligence. First, I want to give first, more than a glimmer of hope, but if we can come together as a collective superintelligence, a vast network of conversations, where each conversation is like a, you know, like a, I don't know, I'm just going to call it a hyper neuron in the planetary brain, right? Our brains are made of neurons that talk to each other. What if in the planetary brain consisted of a network of these hyper neurons, a network of conversations talking to each other, you know, where in each conversation are, you know, mere mortals like ourselves. But I mean, if we could create all the technology and solutions and everything that we've created with the binding glue, the orchestrating glue of the invisible hand of capitalism, imagine what we can do with a vastly more intentional and, dare I say, benevolent orchestrating platform substrate of this vast network of conversations. Okay, so a comparison I want to give is computer scientists and philosophers and science fiction writers have speculated about the possibilities of a general superintelligence emerging from basically artificial intelligence. And I wrote down the term yesterday that Jasper was talking about, artificial general superintelligence, based on, he mentioned some technology here. I'm not sure where I wrote it down, but anyway, oh yeah, neuromorphic general AI, right? And whether or not that ever comes to pass, you know, the concept is, I won't say straightforward, but it's definitely viable, which is that you have an artificial intelligence, artificial general superintelligence, AGSI, evolving very quickly on some appropriate substrate of hardware, software, and, you know, some neuromorphic framework, right? And basically that would become a runaway train, because it would develop the smarts to actually do the jobs of the computer scientists that are, and mathematicians and et cetera, who are coming up with the foundations for that. it would then be able to do that itself, but a million times faster. And then it becomes I mean, this is Ray Kurzweil's singularity kind of thing. Again, regardless of whether that's actually feasible and actually comes to pass, it's certainly conceivable, okay? So if we can conceive of an AGSI, artificial general superintelligence, emerging and evolving, that basically takes over, if we can conceive of that, why couldn't we conceive of a collective superintelligence based on human intelligence and the intelligence of groups in conversation, and then expand from there to the intelligence of a vast network of such groups and such conversations with tremendous cross-pollination and migration of people from one room, from one conversation to another? I'm saying that's also conceivable. And if it's conceivable, and if it's also our best shot at survival, and dare I say thriving beyond survival, why not give it a try? Does anyone have a better idea for a path forward, a strategy forward, given that runaway capitalism, greed, and the addiction to hoarding and ego and delusion and everything else has us in such a chokehold that's holding us underwater while the world burns, right? What better strategy to break free from all this and actually become that unified rebel alliance that can actually change the course of history, change the course of this trajectory that we're on, from death spiral to new pathway forward, to survival, dare I say, thriving. Does anyone have a better idea? I haven't heard of a better idea. I'm not saying there doesn't exist a better idea, but I haven't heard it yet. Umair, do you have a better idea? Do one of your readers? If so, let's talk about it, right? And that's, and interestingly enough, if talking about it is the way to bring it forward and to nourish it and to help it grow into its own Jack and the Beanstalk, then in a way that very notion proves my point that conversation is the way forward, because see, conversations always evolve. The collective superintelligence would always evolve. So any ideas, plural, that came forward that were better than collective superintelligence itself could grow and evolve upon a substrate of collective superintelligence. So today's latest greatest thing becomes tomorrow's substrate upon which new stuff will grow and evolve. So I'm just saying, at a minimum, collective superintelligence is a transitional phase that we need to get through to really accelerate whatever better solutions remain on the other side of it, right? Whatever those may be, right? Okay. I promised running some numbers. So I said, you know, what if 1% of humanity were participating in this collective superintelligence? Well, imagine that there were, on average, 8 people per room, 8 people per conversation in this network of conversations. 1% of humanity is 80 million people. Divided by 8 people per room is 10 million rooms. Can you imagine a network of 10 million distinct conversations, each with its own focus? And imagine all of those organized into a vast and logical taxonomy of conversations, right? All leading to a whole world. Here, I'm going to show some slides that make the point in a moment over here. And yes, this conversation's going long, but you know, I mean, is there something we can do that's a better use of our time? Oh, play video games. Yeah, there's some really good video. Oh, watch Netflix, right? I'm being cynical, but I'm really building off of Umair's article here. Anyway, I'm basically just giving myself permission to go long. Here, let me go ahead and screen share. There's some slides that I want to show about this. All right. So imagine that our goal is a whole world, right? What does it take to achieve a whole world? So this would be the beginning of a taxonomy of conversations that we could ultimately build this network around, right? Well, you know, what does it take to have a whole world? Well, we need wholeness for people and wholeness for the planet. What does it take to have each of those? Well, break each one of those down into its constituent parts, and so on and so on and so on. And the last couple slides are just very conceptual, just to kind of show one way that we could kind of continue to break this down. Okay, enough said on that for the moment. But again, is there a better strategy forward than collective superintelligence? Again, if so, let's talk about it. And I'm positing that writing about it is not enough. Writing about it gets us to this place. Like, again, Umair, we're leveraging your articles as a substrate and then building conversations on top of those to see where those take us. But again, we're quite isolated. Umair, you can bring us together. You can put out a clarion call that will be answered by a critical mass of people. Maybe not by 10 million people, 80 million people all at once, 1% of humanity, but 10,000 people. I think you can bring 10,000 of us together, Umair. Imagine your 10,000 most committed and most idealistic readers who have the most faith that we can do something, right? If you bring those 10,000 of us together, not to talk about one something, but a variety of somethings in parallel as a network of conversations. Now let's run the numbers on those 10,000 people, which you can bring together, Umair. I have no doubt about that. You're really good, Umair. You're freaking awesome, okay? And you can leverage that awesomeness to bring us together if you so choose. And I pray that you will do that. And my God, wouldn't it be so cool to have Umair in this conversation right here? I mean, would that just be freaking cool? I'd like shut up and let Umair talk. And then if occasionally I'd probably get in a sentence or two rather than just rambling on. But anyway, and we do have some pretty awesome people in our conversations beyond this small handful that you're seeing right here. We have some pretty awesome people joining us increasingly over time. But back to the numbers I promised. Let's say, Umair, you round up 10,000 super cool people who are really dialed in, really awake, and have some faith that we can do something together. And then imagine that we self-organize into 1,000 rooms with 10 people per room. 10 times 1,000 equals 10,000. Imagine a taxonomy with 10,000 conversations, a logical taxonomy. Some of us working on solutions to climate change, others working on economic transformation, others working on a new story for humanity, others working on how do we get the word out so that we grow from 10,000 to 100,000, right? I think 10,000 of us meeting together in parallel would be way beyond the critical mass that we need. I think we can get this party started in a very serious way with probably 100 or a few hundred of us, which we'll probably have at the next press conference. Not that they'll come to the press conference because they believe in collective superintelligence, right? And therefore, you know, I don't know that that'll be enough of an Ice 9 seed crystal starting point with a reference to Kurt Vonnegut, Cat's Cradle. Hey, Robert, thanks for joining us. Robert had to go. But you know, a few hundred of us coming with this intention, I think we could create whatever we need to create in a few hours in terms of a strategy to go from a few hundred to 1,000, and then at the next iteration, 1,000 to a few thousand, to 10,000 to 100,000 to 1,000,000, all the way up to the 80 million, which constitutes 1% of humanity. Imagine the collective superintelligence emerging from that. Anyway, I'm going to pass the feather. I've got a lot more to say, but I'm going to pass the feather because I want to give other folks a shot. And take your time, gentlemen.
Yeah, it's really, I think, fortunate that you know, found Umair's writings and are, brought them to our attention, the rest of our group. And it's just so refreshing to have anyone else out there speaking logically and facing the truth of what's happening. And it just gives, just that much more hope. I mean, we bolster each other, by coming to our meetings and, exploring the science and having, at least two very viable ways to cool the planet in order to buy us time to do all the things we should have done 40 or 50 years ago if we had listened to the warnings. But yeah, it's that sign that there is other intelligent life on the planet. Umair, it's really been a blessing to experience your writing, and let's leverage this into the solution. I mean, you can't I can't imagine that you finish writing an article like this and say, oh joy, I hope things get worse and I can write an even bleaker article next time. I'm sure that somewhere the idea that you are speaking up and pointing out the truths was somewhere some hope in you that somebody out there is working on these problems, and hopefully will be an inspiration to you to make an effort towards telling people about the good things that are possible, and you may be able to write some positive stories in the near future if we get enough people organized to work on these problems. Can you imagine how much fun it would be for you? Obviously you like to write and you're good at it. Can you imagine how much more satisfying it would be to write an article about hope and actual science that shows we can overcome this problem if we act fast enough? There is a hard time clock on this. We really need to work fast. I don't know what else I can say at this point, but we can't just live on the hope. We need to, work on the solutions, not just talk about it. And we're at that stage now where we're ready to do that. We just need a few more people, 80,000. It's a drop in the bucket compared to the 7 billion on the planet. So let's get it done. Pass the talking feather.
Yeah, well, I mean, for me here anyway, I mean, this is just not just a collective intelligence community. Obviously, like this is a community. Like, you know what I mean? It's not just a group, and it's a far-reaching community. It's a global community. You know what I mean? So and we're all like-minded people here, and we're all here for the one reason, which is saving, healing, and transforming life on Earth. And over the year that I've been in it, we've had well over 100 people, if not more. I couldn't keep up with the amount of people, but not everyone is here all the time, and not everyone comes every week, but there's coming and going all the time, and that's okay. Nobody's under any pressure to come here or to speak or anything else like that, but everyone's welcome if they want to come, even if they just want to listen. And you never know, you might feel like you have nothing to add to the conversation, but you never know, you might just hear something, and it could be just that one sentence. As you know yourself, Umair, it only takes a sentence to spark a little spark to start the fire. So everyone and anyone can contribute in any small way, but we just need numbers, And it's as simple as that. We just need, as you're doing with your letters, to get the awareness out there. And I believe, like, you know, you'll be very surprised yourself at, you know, the amount of work we've been able to achieve here. And at a lot of times, as I said, there's not a whole lot of people here at any one particular time. But even though that's not the case, there's others in the background working, doing their thing and volunteering for this and there's a lot of good people out there, like yourself. And I believe definitely that once the call is out, they'll come and they'll help. And this is the time now to push. Definitely, this is the time to push. We have to throw everything at this now, including the kitchen sink. So I would definitely extend an invitation to you, Umair, to come and even just maybe join us someday on Friday for the block party for a in-house conversation for a while, just to get to know us and see what we're all about. And if you're comfortable with that, you know what I mean? And an article about a group of ourselves, or such as ourselves, out here trying to do this as well is only pointing a finger in our direction, which wouldn't go astray either. But I definitely would like to speak with you face to face if that was possible, even though I know I'm not on camera now and just at the moment sweating my head off here in Ireland. So passing the talk of it. Thanks, Umair.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you, James. Marco, I see you're unmuted. Did you want to add?
I just forgot to mute after my last comments. I'm contemplating again.
Sounds good. Sounds good. So here, let me go ahead and screen share. I want to play a little bit of Guy McPherson, just a couple of minutes, to talk about the degree of urgency and therefore the logic in giving something like this a try, because frankly, we're almost out of time. So I'm going to go ahead and screen share a little bit of video here, just a couple of minutes. This is Guy McPherson, I think back in late April, and I'm just going to play a couple excerpts. Okay.
April 23rd, so just a couple of days ago. And here's the really critical feature within this press release. Jennifer McKinnon, a physical oceanographer at Scripps, chief scientist of the expedition and lead author of the paper, says Arctic sea ice could be gone by next year and only develop during the winter months. This is a critically important feature because when the Arctic sea ice disappears for the first time in the history of Homo sapiens, that will trigger a global average temperature rise almost certainly enough to extinguish all life on Earth within a relatively short period of time. Obviously, not the day that we have an ice-free Arctic, but I suspect that if the Arctic ice is all gone next year, 2022, for the first time, then 2023 will, starting in the spring and summer months, we will begin to lose habitat around the world for our species. As a consequence, nuclear power plants will melt down. The extremely rapid rate of environmental change will cause loss of habitat for all life on Earth, including Homo sapiens. And it describes the mechanism by which the Arctic Ocean is heating and will continue to heat in the near future, at least one of the mechanisms. Now I want to go back a little bit to January 15th, 2018. First, I want to reiterate with that quote from senior author Jennifer McKinnon in the press release, Arctic ice could be gone by next year and only develop during the winter months. So she's suggesting that the Arctic ice could be gone as early as next year. That's 2022. And then if that happens in 2023, we will have profound rapid changes in the environment that will almost certainly cause loss of habitat for our species, and as a result of the very abrupt warming, likely for all species on Earth. Then let's go back to January 15th, 2018, 2 years and about 4 months ago, from Forbes. The title is, "We Have 5 Years to Save Ourselves from Climate Change," Harvard scientist says. The Harvard scientist is James Anderson, a Harvard University professor of atmospheric chemistry, best known for establishing that chlorofluorocarbons were damaging the ozone layer. So quite a renowned professor. And he is quoted in this paper in Forbes as saying, quote, "The chance that there will be any permanent ice left in the Arctic after 2022 is essentially zero," end quote, with 75 to 80% of permanent ice having melted already in the last 35 years.
I mean, hello, this has been predicted for years, actually for decades. The thing is, it's accelerating. And also, one of the great delusions we've been living under is the delusion that basically we've got until 2100 to sort this out. Somebody, and we can probably thank Al Gore for this, told us, to think in terms of a 2100 time frame. Thank you, future. Right? Let me go on to share a bit about what we've been exploring in terms of, that's the dark side of basically how fast we're exponentially overheating. Let me now share at least some excerpts. I'm just going to skip through and really show some images from what we explored in depth yesterday, Thursday, July 22nd, focused around the work of Professor Stephen Salter in Scotland at University of Edinburgh, who we are in email contact with, exploring all this in depth and talking about putting together a collective intelligence to explore all this and develop these solutions. So this next video that I'm just going to skip around and show parts of, first of all, he shows just how quickly we're overheating.
A very nice way to show the problem. It's by Lee Robinson, and it's a time sequence starting from 1979, going clockwise around up to.
See, that's the death spiral right there. It's loss of volume of Arctic sea ice. This is Professor Salter on top here, who gives us this amazing presentation. And this just underscores the severity, the urgency of all this. And I want to skip ahead to the solution, which is Marine Cloud Brightening. I just want to pop ahead to some juicy images. I mean, he really goes into tremendous detail here.
Now, we now come down to some bit of physics, and this is an amazing photo.
Okay, this is an image that was photographed in 1878. We've actually had tremendous knowledge about the ability to put fluids under pressure, produce streams that then become droplets. So we can take ocean water out in the ocean with pumps, and we'll talk about the energy source. This can all be just self-perpetuating. Speaking of the future, I'm being a little bit cynical here, but we can spray ocean water into the air and produce marine cloud brightening, which is one form of solar radiation management among many that we've been exploring. We've mentioned Dr. Yatow at Harvard, who I was introduced to by Professor Guy McPherson, who's a good friend. And he's working on certain solutions. Dr. Leslie Field at Stanford is working on others with Project ICE 9/11, Professor Salter, others. So there's a whole bunch of different solutions. This is appearing to be probably the most promising. He goes into all these technical details. We've got tremendous knowledge of fluid mechanics from, at this point, beyond decades, centuries of research and analysis, data, studies. And so he gets very sophisticated in terms of droplet size, which is absolutely crucial. Spraying droplets into the air will cause, initially these droplets will evaporate water, leaving highly concentrated salt brines down to salt crystals, which can then float up to higher altitudes, attract water, and then become white, very white little droplets, which form clouds and reflect sunlight into space. He goes into analysis of where this is most likely to take effect around the world. We're in email contact not only with Professor Salter, but also a researcher at University of Leeds in England, who he's put us in touch with. He's come up with the most sophisticated possible solutions in terms of wind-powered vessels that will also generate the energy required to produce this spray. Really sophisticated stuff. I highly encourage folks to check out this video, and also Paul Beckwith's videos, which help break it down into a bit more layman's terms, because he gets quite sophisticated in these videos. But we're leveraging essentially sailing technology that's extremely efficient, and incorporating that technology into some modern vessels, which can be spraying ocean water into the air and producing very bright white marine clouds, which can reflect sunlight back into space, which is actually the only way, broadly, solar radiation management as a class of solutions, of technologies, to cool the planet in time. And with that, I think I'll stop screen sharing, and I'll also go on mute and pass the talking feather. But basically, there is reason for hope that yes, we can produce the solutions that we need to cool the planet. Now, are we organizing ourselves to do that? At the present moment, no. A lot of these researchers see themselves as in competition with the other researchers, right? And that's a tragedy, compounding so many tragedies. And once again, collective intelligence is the way out of this mess. We need a way to come together and collaborate and cooperate. We need a substrate for it. And we're proposing collective superintelligence, this network of conversations. And so much more to say about that. I mean, I've been working on this and thinking about this literally for 7 years now, the collective intelligence parts, the solar radiation management parts only the last few years. But there are so many elements to this. Anyway, as promised, I'm going on mute. I might even have a little smoke while I'm listening to you guys. But anyway, going on mute, passing the talking feather. And if nobody takes the bait, I'll just add that literally with on the order of hundreds to thousands of these vessels, we could produce enough bright white clouds to reflect enough sunlight back into space to actually cool the planet. See, not everyone, but most people are kind of making this unspoken assumption that the only way to cool the planet is to reduce greenhouse gases, for which we don't have the technology, right? Sure, we can turn off emissions, and that's a whole other ball of wax. I almost don't want to go there, but I'll go there only briefly enough to say that and I think I mentioned this in a previous Dear Umair recording, that if we suddenly turned off all emissions, all burning, right, including the dirtiest emissions, of course, we would in so doing turn off the spigot emitting reflective particles into the atmosphere, which are currently doing a form of inadvertent, unintentional solar radiation management, which if you eliminate all that suddenly, right? And by the way, suddenly eliminating emissions does not suddenly eliminate the greenhouse gases that are already in the atmosphere that have been accumulating for decades. It simply turns off the faucet that's propelling more of those into the atmosphere. But what's causing the heating is the accumulation, what's accumulated there, not the rate at which new stuff is going in. So bring the rate down to 0 if you want. That doesn't affect what's already there, but it does affect the emission of particulates, because these particulates, ashes, we all fall down. If we suddenly eliminated all emissions, including the dirtiest, these particulates would fall back to the ground and the ocean in a matter of weeks. And at the end of that period of weeks, we would see a temperature spike of 1 degree centigrade over and above the already rapidly increasing temperatures that are already killing us. Add another 1 degree centigrade, not Fahrenheit, centigrade to that, and you can imagine what happens. And so all this is a case for, hey, drawdown, reducing emissions is not enough. I mean, it's nowhere near enough. It's on a whole different time scale than the incredibly urgent time scale that we have right now to cool the planet, to stave off this exponential overheating that we're already facing, right? We need to refreeze the Arctic, not melt the last of it. That's absolutely crucial. Anyway, with that, I'm going to pass the talking feather.
Yeah. Also, like as well, like it's that people don't get that idea that as well, like that those greenhouse gases. I mean, the emissions, the dirty emissions. If we stop burning those, yeah, they'll fall out of the atmosphere in a few weeks. But the carbon dioxide that's up there is up there for thousands of years. I mean, the carbon dioxide that was produced by the first Ford car, like, it's still up there. You know what I mean? Basically, so we have no technology to deal and take down and draw down all that, and we certainly don't have any time to do it. So there's no doubt about that. And scientists are opening up now to that as well. They've been for a long time prohibited to talk about global dimming and everything else. And Guy McPherson was castigated for mentioning it anyway in the first place. But you know, it's unfortunately it's as I said, it takes sometimes for the problem to hit people in the face before they start to realize, oh, that guy was right over there. So anyway, neither here nor there. The point is that yes, we have to draw down we have to repair the damage we've done, but we don't have the time to do that or the technology. But we do have the technology, and we do, God help, God willing, have the time to cool the planet and buy us the time to come up with the technologies and to to work on the drawdown and everything else, but also to work on all the myriad other problems that we have concerning our destroyed ecosystems and habitats. We need to restore a lot of the damage we've done, and it's not just about drawdown. So Paul Beckwith there, he had a video out there just 6 hours ago or 8 hours ago. I screen shared it there earlier, but there was only 1 or 2 in the room. And he's mentioning it now again. He's kind of putting out another call again about, he took a trip around Canada there a couple of weeks, or last week or so, and he was stopped in various places around Canada and spoke to farmers, and their crops are all dying in the fields because of the heat and everything. And now you're expecting a second heat bomb. So God forbid any of those crops that did manage to survive, because a lot of the farmers were saying they weren't even going to waste the time sending out the combine harvesters this time for many of the crops in Canada. So if there's a second heat bomb, I think what's left is going to be gone. So we could actually be facing food shortages next year, because it will, Canada is the bread basket, like for the cereals and everything else for most of the places around the world. This is going to start hitting us very hard. And we haven't got time to wait for getting a clatter in the side of the head and say, come on, you fucking wake up there small bit. We haven't got time for that. We need to act now. We need to preemptively act, and we need to, exponentially increase our collective intelligence to, outpace the exponential climate overheating. So every man on board, and every man stand up to duty, that's what it is. Every man and woman, we need to get our shit together, and we need to cooperate. So again, I'll plead with Umair, and I'll continue to plead with Umair to join us, not only just Umair. I just want to emphasize that as well. We're putting out this call to a lot, and we're expecting some, influential heads at the press conference in September and everything else. And, we just wish that you'll join us there, because the more the merrier, and strength in numbers, basically. Passing the feather.
And to be clear, you know, drawdown is not the answer now, only because of the length of time it takes. Most of the 101 drawdown methods, I think like probably 99 of them are actually the things we have to do, people have to get in the habit of. And if we had done it somewhere around 40 or 50 years ago, we had started it and put it into practice in large scale, we wouldn't be where we are now. So these things are all important to know and be aware of drawdown and what can be done for those of us that aren't, you know, scientists or engineers or, you know, brilliant mathematicians that are necessary for some of this work. Learning to, you know, grow a garden instead of a lawn, and planting trees instead of burning down, you know, more of the rainforest to feed more meat, more animals to raise meat. That's the most inefficient way to feed us, which is a whole very easy to understand once you know the truth. So there's lots of hope in all the drawdown methods. They're all things that we will need to do in the future, but we need to buy the time now with solar radiation management, reflecting light back into space to cool the planet, not just stop the overheating, but that will cool the planet. And it's not something that we want to do for a very long term. It's a stopgap method. It buys us time. It's not a solution that way we can just go on doing all the stupid things because now we know how to turn the air conditioner on. So don't anybody get that wrong idea. And working together to, you know, practice sustainable agriculture and, you know, making beautiful parks and you know, forest preserves where, you know, you can enjoy nature and see it, you know, let the planet get back into a balance where we have enough plants and trees and shrubs of all kinds that will, you know, start sequestering the carbon. You know, we can get that balance. We just have to buy the time right now by cooling the planet quickly. And the only science we've seen that can do that is some form of solar radiation management, reflecting sunlight back to get that quick cooling effect. So plenty of hope, plenty of wonderful projects we can work on for decades after we solve in very short time here, where we're, you know, we have to do in the next few months massive progress on the cooling, or we're finished. So don't make the mistake that, okay, there is a way to cool and we'll be all right. Only if we do all the other things too. It's just, you know, it's more than a Hail Mary. This is science, and it's there and provable. We can do it. We just need enough people to back it and push it forward. And I'm sure I'm repeating myself some, but it's hard to really focus and not let your emotions, you know, run away with you a little bit, because this is either the end for all of us, or a new beginning of understanding and caring and taking care of each other and the planet. And with that, I'm complete for now.
Thank you, Marco. And amen, hallelujah. Let it be the latter. Let this be a new beginning. Let's not write ourselves off just yet. We can do this. We have, look, technology is a double-edged sword. There's no question about it, right? And just as in Star Wars, you know, Luke Skywalker didn't blow up the Death Star galloping in on a horse. He flew, you know, more or less modern for that time and space, jet fighter, and launched a photon torpedo or whatever the hell he launched and blew up the Death Star. We have the technology to cool the planet through marine cloud brightening. We have it. Does it need to be perfected, optimized? Absolutely. But we've got the basics already. And we need to give it a go, right? And the best way to give it a go is with collective intelligence, right? The latest I've heard from direct correspondence with Professor Salter is that he's getting some flack from some other scientists saying, well, yeah, but, you know, have you considered this, that, the other? And again, this is where sort of the competitive aspects come in. He described it as a how do you pronounce it, Marco, a row? You know, he's having a bit of an argument. It's not friendly cooperative stuff because, again, we're all trapped in this paradigm of competition and hoarding money in the case of industrialists, hoarding credit in the case of academics. Let's name our ailment here. It's hoarding. It's separation. And right here, we're doing the opposite by coming together and sharing ideas, sharing information, sharing ourselves with each other, and forming a collective. This recording is happening within the context of a 24-hour collective intelligence block party, which we do every Friday, Saturday, and to which you, Umair, are invited, and to which all of your readership is invited. See the link below. I still have yet to publish all these. I mean, here, for those who have any doubt about this solar radiation management thing, just consider hypothetically, right, that what if we were to put mirrors all over the surface of the Earth, all over all the oceans, all the land masses, etc., and reflect every last photon of visible light back into space. Nothing gets absorbed. We would cool this planet down to a block of ice in a matter of, I don't know, probably weeks, right? Now, no one's suggesting we do that. What we are suggesting is that we put out we deploy a fraction of that, a small fraction of that kind of reflectivity in the form of probably a combination of marine cloud brightening. Thank you, Professor Salter. Silica powder put over the dirtier areas of ice in Greenland, the North Pole, the remaining Arctic ice. Thank you, Dr. Leslie Field. In fact, going back to some of the images in this presentation by Professor Salter, he shows us some of these images. Look, oh no, that's not one I wanted to show. It's here we go. Look, let's hear what he says about this. Look at here. I'm just going to play just a few seconds of this so you get the gist. Here goes.
And well, there's a lot of empty water, and empty water is taking in all the sunshine. Let's go to the next one. And
that's an important point. When the ice melts, there is empty dark blue ocean seawater remaining, which absorbs sunlight, whereas the ice reflects it back into space if it's clean enough. Now check this out.
Top of Greenland, and you can see as the snow melts, it's leaving behind all the soot and dust and mess, which is very good at absorbing the solar energy coming in. Here's another one showing it's rather a difficult terrain for working. If you fall into any of those melt ponds without wearing special clothing, you'll be dead in a few minutes.
Okay, but that last image that he just showed for a few seconds is very, very telling. That dark surface is absorbing sunlight more than it's reflecting, right? So, and the only reason I bring this up is imagine, and what Dr. Leslie Field and colleagues at Stanford and beyond with the project ICE 911, what they've come up with is a solution of sprinkling silica powder, which is totally inert, totally benign. It's basically fine white sand, right? Which is probably the most abundant material on the surface of the earth. Sprinkling a light dusting, right, on top of those dark areas to make them reflective. If we can do marine cloud brightening, we can do dirty snow and dirty ice brightening, right? It's basically these are different ways of making the planet more reflective. Now, are there some really stupid ideas of geoengineering out there? Yes, but let's not throw out the baby with the bathwater. There are some really, really good geoengineering ideas like solar radiation management, which can cool the planet and buy us time. See, if we cool the planet, then we can afford to turn off the dirtiest emissions, like this cigarette I'm smoking, right? We can afford to turn off the dirtiest emissions because then the reflectivity that we lose from turning those off is more than compensated for by the benevolent reflectivity of marine cloud brightening, ICE 911, Dr. Yatow's arrays of floating mirrors in the oceans, Jamin Shively's solution of putting reflective canopies in certain desert regions of the world, the ping pong balls in the Arctic approach, not plastic ping pong balls, but silica, same material as Dr. Leslie Field is proposing. We can actually cast ping pong ball size hollow spheres with that same material to essentially replace ice that's melted in the Arctic, that's now dark blue ocean seawater, absorbing energy instead of reflecting it. We can reflect it back. So there's lots of tools in our potential toolkit, which is why we urgently need to come together as a planetary collective intelligence, which you can play a vital orchestrating role in, Umair. Help bring us together. We're playing our part, play yours. As a preliminary step, join us in conversation. Umair, when you show up here, if you don't want to record, we won't record. We'll turn off recording. We'll just talk, right? So please don't be scared. Join us. And then whenever you're ready, we can record and broadcast. And you can say, hey, in addition to this article, feel free to check out this recording that I did with these, broad thinking Irishmen, Scots, Canadians, Africans, South Americans. We got people at our last press conference, we had people from 6 continents participating, right? Women and men from 6 continents, all ages. This is collective intelligence. This is the power of the collective. Yes, we can. Yes, we can cool the planet. Yes, we can create collective superintelligence with which we can co-create all kinds of other solutions. In a bit here, we're going to be meeting with the food healers community, and where we're working to feed everyone plant-based foods in Los Angeles for free, making food a basic human right. Talk about public goods. How about the public good of feeding everyone plant-based foods? So as Marco mentioned earlier, we stopped decimating the natural ecosystems to grow more cattle so that McDonald's can sell 99-cent burgers. Talk about externalization. My goodness. Anyway, with that, I pass the feather, going on mute.
Yeah, it's definitely exactly what you're saying, Jim, and everything everything, including the kitchen sink, has to be thrown at it. And there's definitely whatever about hoarding on the side of the scientists anyway. Yeah, they're hoarding their ideas and things, all right. Like, but but it's ego. They have to drop the ego, and they have to put their ideas together. And there's no one magic bullet. There's it's a lot of different ideas. So just need to get over these personal humps really that people have, and ego has to go out the window. And the idea of being famous or anything else, none of that's going to matter if sorry, like, but it's not going to matter a shit, like, at the end of the day, like, if we're all going to burn up. But so yeah, that's all I got. They just need to get our shit together, and everybody, that means everyone.
Yeah, and all of us getting together. Again, think of the exponentially growing dominoes, Here, there's 3 of us in the conversation right now. Alan's here also, but he's probably asleep. He's up in Scotland. So there's really 3 of us who are in this conversation making this happen. What if there were 300 of us divided into 30 different rooms, and maybe we all come into general session from time to time and then go to our breakout rooms and come back for synthesis and then break out again into our taxonomy of topics. We have the tools for this. What's missing is the will. Where are the 300 of us to get this started? Because again, among those 300, some of those breakout rooms would be focused on how do we get this to grow, grow, grow. I think it's going to be a lot more interesting with 300 of us than with just the 3 of us. No offense to the 3 of us, right? I mean, after all, the 3 of us are figuring out a way to bring in Umair and his readership, which will bring us into the hundreds, probably thousands, very quickly if we commit to this. What else are we going to commit to? Dystopia? Death?
Well, we could help Brittany.
Help Brittany? Tell me.
No, I'm just saying, like, as Umair said, like, you know, people going off and nobody's worried about the planet and falling apart, but everybody's worried about Brittany Spears.
Exactly. No, see, it only takes a tiny minuscule fraction of us. I talked about 1% of us. That's 80 million. How about 0.001% of us? That's 8,000. 8,000 of us can figure out how to get to 80,000, and then 800,000, and then 8 million, and then 80 million. Right? No, I'm sorry. 0.0001% of us is 8,000. The Chinese have a saying. It goes like this. Le qi hua wei woman. I'm just kidding. I don't speak Chinese, but the saying goes, it takes an axe to make another axe. Okay? 3 of us become 10. 10 of us become 100. 100 of us become 500, and so on and so on. We can do this if we come together and commit. We're committed. We're in. We show up. This is block party number 73. We've been at this for 73. This is the 73rd Friday. We only took 2 off during Christmas and New Year's, end of last year, end of 2020. James has been with us since the beginning. Marco, you've been with us for over a year. And in that year that you've been here, Marco, you've been in this room more than anyone else. You've put in more hours, longer hours than anyone else. Hats off to you. Bandanas off to you. Mullets off to you. Thank you, Marco. And James, you've kept this open during what for us are ridiculously late hours. You get some sleep and you turn it on again in Ireland with Irish breakfast, closing out the block party. When you can, and this is all about when we can. No one here is an indentured servant. None of us get paid for this. In fact, we, if anything, forego opportunities for income to focus on this. But we love life, and we believe we can save life on Earth. So that's why we're here. Passing the feather.
Well, I certainly believe we can try anyway, and I believe everyone can try if they were, and everyone would try if they were aware. So awareness is the key. I've always banged on about that, I know, but it is the key. And we've done a lot of good work in the last year and a half on this. And there's, as I said, it's not just the 3 of us. There was a nice group of us here today, and we had some good progress. And again, yesterday, it doesn't matter. The point is like that. Even with just the average group of us here every week or whatever, regardless of who pops in and out or whatever, and we're getting work done and we're making progress. And I know that Umair can't see that here or now at the moment, but that's why I would prefer if he if he joined us for a short time sometime, and we can give him an idea of what it is we're about. But also, he can also give us a helping hand as well, as well as everyone else is doing, like trying to get the numbers up. And sorry, I'm just babbling now at this stage. Passing the fiddle.
And by the way, there's nothing wrong with babbling. It's 2:30 in the morning there in Ireland, and you're foregoing sleep in order to be in the conversation. Hats off to you, James. And you know, we're pioneering, you know, arguably some extremes here. Extremes in terms of long form conversation format, 24 hours of continuous conversation. And that's because we believe it's this sounds kind of funny, but you know, Malcolm Gladwell, what was his book? I don't know if it was Blink or one of the others, where he talked about the 10,000 hour rule. I don't think it was Blink. I think it was something else, where if to achieve mastery at something, you have to put in 10,000 hours. Well, we are putting in those 10,000 hours as quickly as we can in an arguably inefficient, but nonetheless process of mastering collective intelligence. Somebody's got to, yeah, go ahead, James.
No, I'm just laughing because you said it's 2:30 here, and I was saying to myself, is it that time already? And I looked at the clock, it's actually 3:30. So I was thinking, I didn't even realize it was 2:30, let alone say it's 3:30.
You're right. It is 3:30 in the morning in Cork, Ireland. Well, God bless you, James, for sticking it out.
What can I say? When the conversation is good, you know what I mean? It's energizing. What can I say? You know what I'm saying? So
yeah. And the thing is, we have faith that Umair, you will join us. We have faith. I don't care how many episodes of Dear Umair it takes. And whether you're the first to join us, Umair, or a dozen or so of your readers, or 100 of your readers, right? I predict you will be with us, Umair, because we need you here. Umair, you have the gift of writing and expressing and going deep in these areas that most of us don't dare to look at. So I know you've got what it takes. Umair, go ahead, James.
Sorry for cutting across, Jim. No, I was just saying because of what you said. You know, Umair, you said in your article yourself, like, will people unite? Well, as I said, they will. And you can see us, we're here, we're trying to unite so we can do with all the help possible. So I'm sure, you know, you're in some way delighted to see that there are people like ourselves out here as well. I know you know that there are people out here like ourselves, but I think what we're offering is something very unique, and what we're building towards is very unique. And you know, all the help is welcome. So again, sorry for babbling.
Yeah, and you know, here's the thing. You know, we're one community. We've had, you know, hundreds of us, probably into the thousands if you go over the year and a half, because there are times when we have close, you know, we've had, I don't know, 200 people in here at once at one time. Is probably the biggest single number at any one time. But again, not all of those even know about collective intelligence. We've just had some events that have had some big draws of people. Collective intelligence, it seems to be one of those things that people have a hard time getting, but paradoxically, once we get enough people doing the disco dance of collective intelligence, I mentioned this because Umair is into disco, right? Once we get enough, it takes a certain critical mass of people doing the disco dance to actually get it and feel the magic of it, right? We need to hit that critical mass, and we need to hit it soon. Summer 2022 is 10 months away. 10 months away. We've got 10 months to get serious planetary scale marine cloud brightening going. Okay? Which means we have to get collective intelligence growing exponentially much sooner than that, because it's going to take collective intelligence to help to create that substrate where these different academics, researchers, philanthropists, et cetera, can come together and say, wow, I see we need to actually do this. So we need to come together and work together in these specific ways so that however many cycles later, we actually have marine cloud brightening happening. Not just talking about it, but actually doing it. We got 10 months. Again, is there a better strategy? If so, come tell us so we can talk about it and promote that. Again, the strategy is very simple. Grow collective intelligence to the point that we can then deploy marine cloud brightening so that we can cool the planet, continue to grow food, and buy ourselves time. And yeah, sure, there's a lot of yeah, buts. That's why we need a lot of breakout rooms to deal with all the yeah, buts. That's one of the reasons we need a lot of breakout rooms and a lot of conversations. There's a lot of details to be worked out here. It's not one single conversation. And from a network of conversations can grow a network of articles, a network of blog posts. It doesn't all have to be synchronous. The asynchronous is crucially important. Look at how you got us started on this conversation today. It all started because we read your article, Umair. I've got more stuff I want to address based on the article. So let me take out some of my notes, but first I'm going to pass the feather. You see the magic in passing it around? It gives us time to think. Passing the feather. And again, silence is okay. James has another thought. How about playing the video we shared earlier today? Oh, nice. I like it, James. Thank you. Good idea. Yeah, there's a video we played earlier today. Let me go ahead and get that one up. Let me find it. Okay, I'm looking for the one that Jackie did. Okay, but here, let me find it in the chat, James. Okay, almost there. Here we go. Whoa. There we go. Okay. Oh, Sarah's here. Let me welcome Sarah. I'm going to pause recording so we don't surprise Sarah. All right, I wish you heard the last 5 seconds, Umair and company, but Sarah joined us. We generally pause when we're recording and new people pop in so that we don't catch them cold. We respect people's privacy, et cetera, et cetera. Sarah said, heck yes, record. I told her we're doing Dear Umair. She said, all right, that's my favorite thing. Umair, we love you. There's so much love for you. You know that, Umair. Well, let that love blossom in a whole new way, which is through these amazing Dear Umair segments. All right, let me play this video that Stephanie, James's daughter, created. And this is from basically one of our meetings of many, I don't even want to do the math, thousands of hours. We're up to thousands of hours now. Incredible. We are up to thousands of hours of recordings or meetings anyway. Here goes. This is Jackie. I think from her series called Vegans of Color, but anyway.
I personally have been literally fighting my whole life. I don't remember not fighting for something, for identity, for the right to speak, for the right to think, for the right to be, the right to eat. Everything I've been fighting since before I can remember. When we're raised in that kind of culture and society, so many of us make so many conscious choices along the journey, to survive, because we don't know any better, because we've been taught, because we've purposely not been taught to be the people that we are, like just what people think of as a childhood, to even reflect on and go back and get in touch with. So going within for some of us, it's scarier sometimes than what's on the outside. So we seek so many distractions because it's just easier, because those incessant thoughts just race. And if I can barely, when I think I'm conscious, deal with them, now you're asking me to just shut everything down, all distractions, and just go within and face all of those. That takes so much. And I think that's where community and having a guide to support. And I think that's all of our jobs as community, is to go back and help, because we will not ascend and we will not evolve if we don't balance and take that journey from within. We don't know how to not have judgment for ourselves. And so some of us just feel like we can't do it. And I think that's why it's so important that we have community like this to come together, so that we can support one another in that non-judgment, so we can support one another in that reflection. Hey, there's nothing in you that's not in me. The divinity that you see in me is merely the divinity that you see reflected from within you. We are all, and we are all the same.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you, Stephanie Desmond, James Desmond's daughter. Absolutely beautiful.
And I like as well the fact that you know, Jackie actually, in a sense, kind of quoted Umair himself in his writing there earlier as well. Like, you know, so you know, it's just that, you know, I think you get that, and I think it's very poignant. Anyway, is what is the point. I don't think I need to say no more about it.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Basically, they're speaking the same language, is what I'm saying.
Absolutely. That's it. There's a convergence of wisdom, of vision, of hope that's happening here. There's absolutely a convergence of all these things. Now, speaking of convergence and speaking of hope, on this particular Dear Umair segment, and it's time we get these things published and brought to the attention of Umair. So I've got to prioritize this. But speaking of all this, what do you guys think if I share some of the press conference with President Vicente Fox that I co-organized with him back in 2013 as an example of when you bring together this crystallization of wisdom and insight and courage to bring together a collective intelligence with a specific purpose, that we can change the course of history? Because that press conference that we co-organized changed the course of history. Shall we do it? A few minutes of that? All right, here goes.
Yeah, I think it'd be a good example of what we're proposing to do as well with the press conference in September as well, with the launch of Trove.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we're going to relaunch the press conference, which we put together in November 2020, a more general press conference. This one is a specific one that I took the lead on, invited my old friend, President Vicente Fox of Mexico, to join us in. And we forced the hand of the Obama administration with this one press conference, which then led to other meetings in San Francisco, California, in San Francisco del Rincon, Guanajuato, Mexico. 2 San Franciscos followed on this one. And that series of events forced the Obama administration to come to the table and give a green light to ending the prohibition of cannabis, to taking crucial steps. We're still struggling with the prohibition of cannabis. Much more to say on that, but for now, let me play a few minutes of this press conference. May 30th, 2013, Seattle, Washington. The context is, after my career at Microsoft, seeing that legalization was on the upswing, I created the first brand of premium legalized cannabis for social use, not medical, social. The first premium brand of cannabis for social use. And the brand is called Diego Pellicer, based, and you can see it in the background on certain shots of this press conference. The picture of my great-grandfather, who in the Victorian era was the largest grower of hemp in the world in the late 1800s. He was based in the Philippines, a Spaniard. My grandmother was born in the Philippines, making me part Filipino. So anyway, here goes. Press conference, May 30th, 2013. Let's play the first few minutes, which are, I still had short hair at the time, so I look a little different, but here goes.
Okay. All right. Welcome, everyone. Thank you all for being here. Before I introduce our distinguished guests, I would like to begin with a quote from the late astrophysicist Carl Sagan. "The illegality of cannabis is outrageous, an impediment to full utilization of a plant which helps produce the serenity and insight, sensitivity and fellowship so desperately needed in this increasingly mad and dangerous world." Carl Sagan. But by making cannabis illegal, we have instead turned it into a tool for violence, exploited by criminals and organized crime, spanning many countries. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a unique moment in history. The Berlin Wall of the prohibition of cannabis is weak, and it is crumbling as we speak. And just as happened in Berlin in 1989, the old guards who used to protect the wall of cannabis prohibition are laying down their weapons and walking away. What remains to be done is to safely and systematically dismantle the wall of prohibition and replace it with a system of laws, international agreements, regulations, and standards to ensure a prosperous and, above all else, safe cannabis industry. We are moving forward. The states of Washington and Colorado are leading the way. We have waited long enough for some sort of a green light from Washington, D.C., telling us that it is okay to proceed. In fact, the silence from our nation's capital has been deafening.
That was the setup right there, okay? That was the setup, and that's all I really need to play of my 5-minute speech, now halfway through. Let's fast forward to President Fox and what he said with the clincher, and this is what forced the hand of the Obama administration.
The volume for me was really, really low. I could barely hear you. I don't know if that's for everyone else.
No, it's perfect. It's perfect for me anyway.
Okay.
And we'll include the link, and I encourage everyone to check out this press conference, which went for like an hour and a half. We have this whole cast of characters, right? Sitting right to the right of me here, if you look at my mouse, that's John Davis. As far as I'm concerned, the #1 cannabis and drug policy expert in the United States. Retired General Skip Dreps from the Army, speaking for the rights of veterans, right? To the left of President Fox, you can't see him now, but you'll see him in a minute, the gray-haired gentleman, Dr. Michael Osborne, president of the Strang Institute of Cancer Prevention in New York City. They're the ones who developed the Pap smear, right, which has saved more lives than any other pre-surgical, pre-intervention cancer diagnostic, pap smear. I could go on and on. There's a whole heavy hitting group spanning. See, this is collective intelligence right there. Anyway, I'm going to go back to, now let's listen to President Fox, but listen to how I introduce him.
Ladies and gentlemen, I introduce to you the first freely elected president of Mexico, Señor Presidente.
I'm going to rewind a little bit more. I want a little bit more of a lead in for President Fox.
Next, it is my pleasure and profound honor to introduce to you a man who has dedicated his life to transforming his country and our world into a more peaceful, loving, and prosperous planet. Ladies and gentlemen, I introduce to you the first freely elected president of Mexico, Señor Presidente.
Congratulations for that position. This state of Washington, has decided to lead a new path, a path to change the paradigm by legalizing medical and social use of cannabis. In Mexico, we welcome this initiative because the cost of the war, in the case of Mexico, is becoming unbearable. Too high for Mexico, Latin America, and the rest of the world. The impact in the economy, on income, on tourism investment, loss of talent, and above all, loss of hope, and 80,000 kids dead in the last 6 years. All this because our neighbor to the north represents such a gigantic consumer market. We must get out of this trap, and here is the opportunity. Now this group here is moving accordingly from words into plans, and from plans into action, and the action in the arena. To play the real game, this group must understand the need to make good, safe, and legal use of these new laws for the benefit of the people and the common good. I am here convinced of the need for change and the search for new avenues in this difficult and unresolved issue. I am here to witness a paradigmatic change. I have too many questions about the implementation of these new laws and regulations and how it will impact our countries and communities. This is an issue of strategic interest and concern around the world. This historic step today is to be observed and evaluated closely by all of us because it is a game changer. Fox Center is an acting think tank.
Anyway, he goes on from there, makes a bunch of other good points. I don't want to take up too much of dear Umair again, the press conference goes for a full hour and a half. I'll include the link. But this is an example of what we can do together. We are preparing for a similar press conference about solar radiation management and the solution to cooling the planet. Imagine that instead of a President Fox at this new press conference. You have Chancellor Angela Merkel of Germany. Imagine you have the heads of state of Canada, Australia, South Africa, Mexico, right? All talking about the urgency for cooling the planet. Just imagine. And instead of a Jim and Shively teeing it off, right, and talking about specific implementations, you've got Dr. Yatow of Harvard, Professor Stephen Salter of Scotland, University of Edinburgh, right, Dr. Leslie Field of Stanford, and other pioneers of solar radiation management saying, hey, we've got a solution here, right? And the national leaders saying, look, you know, I'm not a physicist, I'm not an atmospheric scientist, atmospheric chemist, but I am convinced of the need to change because we are burning alive, right? Imagine that. See, this press conference had to be imagined before we could design it, before we could build it, before I could say, hey, President Fox, we need you here, right? We had to design it. We're in the process of designing this press conference for cooling the planet, for getting the balls rolling to cool the planet, for forcing the hands of government around the world to take the wool away from their eyes, thinking in terms of a time frame of 2100 and gradual carbon emissions. That ain't going to do it, right? Forcing the hands of government, of the nonprofit sector, of the Bill Gates of the world, who you've rightly criticized. I'm very public in my criticisms of Bill Gates as well, and I used to work for him, right? Don't have me whacked, Bill, please. I've got enough death threats from the criminal drug cartels emanating from our work in cannabis and ending prohibition, literally. We will gently but firmly force the hand of humanity to get our act together, implement solar radiation management, cool the planet, and in parallel, Sarah's here because we're going to be working on food healers in a bit here. In parallel, feeding the world plant-based foods as a basic human right, as a basic public good, to use your parlance, Umair, to end hunger, end malnutrition, and end the daily holocaust of animals around the world. I think I've got dinner time coming. Oh, no? Okay, thank you. Thanks, sweetheart. I've got a bit more time. I've got my 91-year-old mother-in-law here living with us, and so I prioritize her, but I've got a little more time. We can do this, and Umair, we need you, right? Before I could orchestrate that press conference, I needed John Davis, the #1 drug policy expert in the country. He brought in other drug policy experts. We brought in all kinds of other experts across the board, from Dr. Michael Osborne, General Skip Drups, many others who you'll see in this press conference. Everyone has a role to play. Umair, you have a vital role to play. You're the best writer we know of, writing about the most important issues and delving straight into them, getting to the roots of our problems, calling them out. We need to go from this articulation of problems to articulation of solutions, to press conferences. To paraphrase President Vicente Fox, from words into plans, and plans into actions, and actions in the arena, to play the real game of, in this case, reflecting sunlight back into space in sufficient degrees to cool the planet in time, to buy us time, to save the Arctic, to stop this madness of exponential planetary overheating, which is burning us alive. We can do this. And Umair, you have a crucial role to play. Your readership has crucial roles to play. Each and every one of you watching this has crucial roles to play that you can now start dreaming into and living into step by step in an evolutionary process, which can go exponential. Anyway, with that, I'm going to pass the talking feather.
Now, I, for one, am starting to run out of steam. But yeah, that clip from the press conference with President Fox, I watched the whole thing, and it's very, very well played, Jamin. You got a knack for that, and I saw it again, last November in our press conference here, and so looking forward to getting this next one out in September.
Yeah, we're doing this. Go ahead.
I'm complete for now.
Yeah, we are so doing this. At the last big press conference in November, we had Dr. Yatow at Harvard speaking on solar radiation management. Prior to him, teeing him up was Professor Guy McPherson summarizing the problem. We'll put the link to that press conference here in this YouTube video as well. It's all a progression. It's all an evolution. And it's an evolution in the face of a death spiral, right? We've got to out exponentiate the death spiral here, and we can do it. I'm convinced we can do it. I have no doubt. Before working at Microsoft, way back in the day, I was a graduate student of hydroclimatology at MIT. That's how I know climate stuff, climate science and engineering. And we all have our own unique sets of talents and passions and knowledge and wisdom. If it weren't for Sarah, we wouldn't be feeding Los Angeles plant-based foods for free. Sarah brings an amazing trajectory, not only of veganism, plant-based foods, but animal rights activism. She's on the front lines every day, risking attacks, threats, like Miss Regan, who was run over by a trucker driving a truck of animals to slaughter in Canada, right? We're on the front lines. All of us are on the front lines. There's nowhere else to be right now but on the front lines. This is the only game in town saving life on Earth. And either we do it collectively, as my dad used to say, either we hang together or we'll hang separately. Not that he came up with the quote, but he quoted whatever famous person from history said that. Either we hang together or we'll hang separately. The choice is ours. And the choice is yours, Umair. Will you join us? We need you here as soon as possible. Let's do this. Time's a wasting. What are we waiting for? We can't wait any longer. It's 4 a.m. in Cork, Ireland, and James is here fighting the urge to sleep, the bodily need to sleep, to be a part of this. Thank you, James. Sarah is sacrificing her life, foregoing opportunities for income and who knows what else, and putting her life on the line, putting her neck on the line. Thank you, Sarah. God bless you.
Guys, I'm going to a chicken vigil tonight, and I wanted to let you know that's where I'm driving, and I'm kind of emotional about it because there's going to be about 10,000 chickens, innocent. There's also doves and other animals that get dropped off there too, but it's a series of wet markets that they get dropped off in Orange County. So they drop them off about 10:30 at night tonight, and then the next day they slicing them and dicing them. But yeah, and they drop them off in these back. It's really sad, but unless we document it and show it, people aren't gonna. They think they're eating cage free. But this is why food healers is so important, because we've got to stop supporting this, because this is just an environmental destruction that this truck carrying several trucks carrying thousands of chickens, it's polluting the environment, polluting it's not like they're not going to the bathroom all over each other. it's just disgusting and sad. And it's like, it's not necessary. It does not, we don't need animals. This is what one quote I want to just go out with and say, you don't need to take a life of another to sustain your own. And Samuel L. Jackson actually said that a long time ago. You don't have to take the life of another to sustain your own. And I really think people really need to start living by that principle. That's really something that I really think grown men and grown women need to start addressing is, why are you killing and taking other lives? Why are you doing that when you don't need to?
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you, Sarah. You know, the answers are right in front of us. Stop killing. We can make it just fine with this beautiful cornucopia of plants, of seeds, of nuts, of berries, of legumes, of lentils, of herbs, of spices, so many things that give us complete nutrition and so much more energy and so much more health than eating hacked up dead animal parts, murdered animals. These aren't animals who died of natural causes of old age. And we said, okay, well, instead of burying them, we're going to eat the meat. No, no, no. These are slaughtered animals in the prime of their life, having been raised in hellish concentration camps, raped, beaten, defecated upon, and slaughtered. I mean, it's absurd, right? Why did I eat meat when I used to eat meat? Well, that's what my father and grandfather did, and we had so much fun at barbecues and all that fun. My God, what horror. I could say I didn't know better. And maybe I didn't. But maybe at some level I did. Here's the thing. With collective intelligence, all the answers are coming to light. The path forward is coming to light. We just need to be willing to show up and listen and open up our hearts and minds like you are modeling for us, Umair and Sarah and Marco and James and all of us. We just need to show up. Umair, you can help us show up in mass. You're inspiring us to show up in mass. You've taken us so far, Umair, and now you can help us take us farther still. Well, it's after 4 in the morning in Ireland. Shall we let James off the hook and let him get some sleep? And we let Sarah drive safely?
Yeah, I'm actually supposed to go camping in the morning down to Baltimore and West Cork, so I better get some sleep, I suppose.
All right.
But it was worth it. It was worth it because you know, anything we can do, you know, if we can get a Umair on here and have a conversation with us in private if he wants that first or whatever, it'd be worth it to stay up for 24 hours, no problem. So thanks, Umair, for listening and having the page. If you have listened to all this all the way through, thank you and God bless.
Amen. Hallelujah. Sarah's got her hand up. James, get some sleep. We'll be wrapping up here fairly soon. I'm just kidding. You go to sleep when you feel like it, because I know you're up to big things here along with the rest of us. Sarah, go for it, sister.
Hey, I just wanted to let you know, since I wanted to talk to you once we were stopped recording. Molly wants to do the event with us on August 14th. She reached out to me today. And I just got a really nice card from my pet sitting. They gave me $100 bill on top of paying me already. They gave me I'm like blown away. I wish I didn't have to accept this because I am blown away, but I'll give it to charity. You know, it's just so giving. These people are so amazing. And one of their dogs is vegan and he's 17.
Wow. What's up, dog? Sup, dog? 18. Love it. Love it.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm happy because I have been working really hard and they really appreciated me. And I was just so blown away by their gratefulness. And I told them I needed to go on Zoom for solar radiation management. And they thought it was the coolest thing. They told me I could stay there and go upstairs and do it on my phone at night. And I said, no, it's okay. I'm going to go this trip. But so they're interested and they want to learn about it. So I'm really happy because these are the kind of people that we need to get, people that are actually open to it.
Exactly. Exactly. You hear that, Umair? The people who are open to it. Umair, you are opening hearts and minds. You are opening hearts and minds. Your brilliant writing. Let me just welcome back Miranda. Miranda, welcome back, sister. We're just wrapping up a lengthy recording on Dear Umair. We're recording now with intent to publish. We've been having a super cool meeting up until now, but listen, Miranda, with you here, now it's perfect.
Thank you. I'm good.
Awesome.
Continue.
Yeah.
Record, go, do your thing.
Thanks, Miranda. Yeah, we'll bring you up to speed in a bit because we're just wrapping up this recording right now. And what an inspiring closing having you here and Sarah here with the inspiring work she's doing. Wow. This is what it's all about. Hi. Beautiful. All righty. Well, should we give it a rest for now? I think this has been super cool. My goodness, these Dear Umair sessions are getting better and better. Dear Umair, I'm gonna have to come up with like a disco beat for it. Dear Umair. We love you, Umair, and we need you here. And we all need to evolve and come together. That's the bottom line. We're doing our part, you're doing your part, your readers are doing their part. Let's come together and do this. Join Dear Umair. Join us. Everyone's welcome. That's right. You too can be in this meeting with us, singing Dear Umair. Any final words?
I'll just say thanks and good night. God bless to all of you, because I'm definitely going to get some sleep. And yeah, I look forward to speaking to you in person, Umair. God bless.
Beautiful, beautiful. Have a great sleep, James. You've definitely earned it several times over. And have a great camping trip. Be safe and enjoy. And we'll see you soon.
Stay safe, brother.
All right, thanks, guys. I'll talk to you in the morning, probably.
All right, James. Thanks so much. We'll see you then. And thanks to you for being here on the block party and for this amazing segment of Dear Umair. Join us next time. And onward and upward. Much love to all. Thank you all. Thank you, Umair. And thank you all.